Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to create Android plugin for integrating WebSocket IO inside your Godot game engine. Like I mentioned, like this video is only for Android because I have created a plugin for it. Unfortunately, at the time of making this video, there is no proper implementation in GD script. That's why I have to write Kotlin code or Java code for this creating a plugin, and that's why it works only on Android. So here I have one Android device, and the message which you see connected to server is actually sent from my Node.js backend to my Android device. Also, I don't have two Android devices. That's why what I have done is that I have created this web app as well. If you are curious how to create this web app for Socket.io communication, I've already created a video on this. I've also created a video on how to implement this on your backend with Node.js. So if you are curious, you can watch that as well. So here what I am doing is that from my Godot side I'm just sending this hard coded data, like send data Godot, because I don't know how to use a text field in Godot, but yeah, any which ways that's fine. So if I click on this send data, it will send that text of Godot to my Node.js backend, and that my Node.js backend will emit that data to all the clients which are connected to it. So if I click on send data, here you can see that it has the label has changed to Godot because that's the updated text which I received from my Node.js backend. If you go to my web app as well, here you can see I'm using Godot. Like for my web app I have taken a list. For Godot, just for simplicity, I have not taken a list, but now if I suppose I try to insert some data from my web app as well, so okay, I'll just enter web app, I'll click on submit. Here you can see I have received that web app text as well. Now it's up to you how do you want to store that data. You can use SQLite. I have already made a video on SQLite as well, like using room database for Android. So if you are curious, you can store that, or you can store it in a normal list as well and then display it inside a list view or something inside your Godot app. So let's see. Firstly, I'll show you the backend as well. I've already made a video on this. I won't go in depth about this. So inside my package.json, I have taken Express and Socket.io. Okay, and inside index.js, this is like boilerplate code, then this is again boilerplate code, like we are just getting Express, Socket.io as well as HTTP. Then here I am creating our server, then initializing our Socket.io as well. This is for calls handling. This is just a normal API endpoint, you can ignore it. This is for error handling. Now this is the main part. So as soon as a connection has been once a client has been connected to our backend, what I'm doing is that I'm sending this message connected to server. So if you remember, we were seeing this message, right? So this is how you emit a data. Once for listening data from the client, you can use socket.on, and you will have to use this identifier on your client side as well. You can change this identifier, but make sure you use the same identifier on your backend as well as on your front end or mobile app. And once I get the data, again I'm emitting it back to all the clients. So I'm using the same identifier. Okay, you can use a different one, then you will have to change it for your client as well. So over here you can see I'm using data.data because I'm sending that particular data in form of a JSON object. That's why I'm using data.data. But if you want, you can send it in form of string as well. And here I'm just starting my server. Okay, so let's see. First you will have to create an Android project using Android Studio. It can be an empty views project or a Jetpack Compose project, doesn't really matter. Next, once you create the project, just go to this Android drop down over here. You will have to right click on your app, new, module, select Android library, and here you can just rename this as whatever you feel like. Change the package name to whatever you feel like. Click on finish. I have already created this, so won't create it again. Next, you will have to go to the build.gradle.kts of your library, and here I have imported Godot 4.2.1 because that's what I'm using at the time of this recording. But if you're using some higher version, you can make sure you use that as well. Then here I have added this Socket.io dependency. So this is a Java dependency, but the good thing about Kotlin is that you can easily integrate Java code inside your Kotlin code as well without any effort. And we are excluding this because we want to use the one which is already provided in Android. Okay, next just click on sync now, then create a file over here inside your library called Godot. Okay, so next we'll go to your Godot Android plugin. So I'm extending from Godot plugin, as well as lifecycle owner. This is boilerplate code for lifecycle owner. Again, you can use, we are writing this because we want to make use of coroutines. Then I have written our plugin name as just my plugin. You can use whatever you want, but make sure you remember this name because we will be using this in lot other places. Then my backend is hosted locally, that's why I'm using localhost. But if you are trying to run it on real device, don't use localhost. You will have to replace with your own IP address if your Node.js backend is hosted locally. And if you are trying to run it on the Android emulator, make sure again localhost won't work. You will have to use some separate domain. I don't remember it, but yeah, that's what it is. If like better would be to deploy your Node.js backend on cloud, and then you can use whatever is your Node.js backend URL. Then we are creating these options. Then we are generating our socket, so using io.socket. Then here we are registering our signal. So this signal will help us to send data from Godot side to the native Android, from native Android side to the Godot side. And once the Godot setup is completed, what I'm doing is I'm connecting our socket. Then here I'm listening for messages from server. Once I get a message, I convert it to a JSON object, and from that JSON object I get the data property, because if you remember I was passing it as data.data. So this is our JSON object, right? So yeah, I'm getting that object and I'm just giving it back to Godot side. Okay, and for sending data, again I'm using lifecycle scope, and whatever data you send from Godot to Android, I'm just again creating a JSON object and I'm putting it to inside our data.put. And then for emitting, I'm just using the same identifier which we have on our backend side, and I'm just passing our data. Okay, and on destroy I'm just disconnecting our socket. Once that is done, you can have to go to android manifest.xml. You will have to add internet permission, and also you will have to add this application tag. I have just copied it from docs, but make sure you replace this with your own package name. So if you forgot, this is your package name, and this should be your plugin name. So again over here, so use your own thing, and here you will have to use this uses clear text traffic equal to true, because my Node.js backend is hosted locally. Once that is done, what you'll have to do, go to the project drop down, and inside my library you will have to create a folder called export scripts template. Inside that create a file called plugin.cfg. again I have copy pasted it from docs. Only thing which you'll have to change this plugin name, change description, author, whatever you feel like. And here you will have to create another file called export plugin.jd. again I have copy pasted it from docs. Only thing which you will have to change is your plugin name over here. Also you will have to override this extra bit of method called get android dependency. Here you will have to add coroutines, because the android build template for android build template for Godot does not include coroutines, as well as lifecycle runtime. And we also have to add socket.io, because that's what we added in our build.gradle file. Okay, so all this is done. Next next all you will have to do, you'll have to go to your Godot project. So go to your not to your Godot project, sorry, to your Android project. You will have to open your terminal to your Android project, and you will have to run this command. So I'll show you that command as well. So this is the command. Once you run this command, if you go to your Android project, if you go to your library, build, outputs, AR, here you should see 2 AR files being generated. I have already copied those files to my Godot project, that's why you are not seeing it over here. Next I will go to my Godot, so I'll just create a Godot project, and inside that here I have created a folder called add-ons. Inside that I have created a folder with your plugin name. Inside that I have created a bin folder, and inside bin create 2 folders, debug and release. Now copy the debug AR file to the debug folder, release AR file to the release folder. So if I go to my Godot project, add-ons, my plugins, bin, so here you can see, but you will have to change the name of the AR file. So it should be your plugin name -debug.ar. Similarly for release as well, your plugin name -release.ar. Then inside your plugin folder you will also have to copy these 2 files. So if you remember, we had created this file as well as this file inside our Android plugin. So copy those inside your Godot project, inside your plugin folder as well. Next you will have to click on project, install Android build template. I have already done that. Then click export, click add Android. I have already done that as well. Then here at the bottom you might be seeing a button called fix import. Just click on it. Here you will have to check this use Gradle build, and here you will have to check the Android architecture depending on what Android device you are using. If you don't know, select all 4 of those. Once that is done, go to project settings, go to plugins, and here you will have to check this checkbox as well. Then inside UI I have just taken a vbox container, a button as well as a label, and I have attached one script to it. And if you see the script, this again is your plugin name. This should be your own plugin name. And inside on ready, I'm just initializing our plugin as well as connecting our test signal. And so once the test signal is called, I'm just updating our label. Okay, but if you want, you can append the data to our list or to a SQLite database, whatever you feel like. And on button pressed, I'm just sending data of Godot. Again, this is hard coded, but you can do a better job than me. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.